Hi, welcome. My name is Bella Gonzalez. I am part of the team number one, along with my fellow Rosana Gregorio and Elisabetta. And today we will talk about the rules of the Hague visby. The Hague visby rules are a mandatory framework of rights on and obligations that apply to the carriers of goods by sea. Outside of this basic framework, the parties to a contract of carriage are free to negotiate additional terms as they wish. The Howler rules were brought into English law by the Carriage of Goods BC at 1924 and were subsequently updated by the Carriage of Goods BC at 1971, which brought into force the Hague-Visby rules. Before the Hague rules were introduced, parties to the contract of affreightment had freedom to negotiate whatever terms they wanted. This often led to wide-reaching exclusions of liability by sea carriers, who could take advantage of their stronger bargaining position. The shipping industry therefore needed a set of codified rules to ensure a fair system which both defined the rights and obligations of the parties and specific maximum exclusions of liability. Which contracts are covered? Art 1b states that the rules are applicable only to contracts of carriage covered by a bill of lading or any similar document of title insofar as such document relates to the carriage of goods by sea. Therefore, the rules will not apply to waivers of other non-negotiable documents, and they are not documents of title. Nowhere they apply to bills of lading issued under charter parties, as the terms of the contract will be found in the charter itself. Which voyages are covered? Of the Hague visby rules states that we apply to every bill of lading if the bill of lading is used in a contract stated. The carrier is from a port in contracting status. The contract contained in or evidence with the bill of lading provides that these rules of legislations and any study giving effect to them are to govern the contract. In practice, the rules are usually expressly incorporated by way of clause paramount on the reserved side of the bill of lading, although attention must be paid to the exact wording used.
Hi, my name is Rosana Gregorio and I will continue to talk about exceptions to liability. There are four list 17 exceptions which a carrier can rely on when faced with a claim. These exceptions will upon the four common law exceptions applicable to every carrier: act of God, Queen's enemies, inherent vice, and a general average sacrifice. The rules also include three unique exceptions, which cannot be found in any other convention. Number 1. Act, neglect, or default of the master, mariner, pilot, or the servant of the carrier, in the navigation or in the management of the ship. Number 2. Fire unless caused by the actual fault or privity of the carrier. Number 3. The catch-all exceptions. Also, this may seem like an extensive list. A carrier will not be able to rely on a list of exceptions if the peril could have been avoided by exercise of reasonable care, or the operative cause of the loss was the unseaworthiness of the vessel. And there has been a fundamental breach of the contract of carriage. And now continue with the scope of rules. And goods under the rules exclude live animals and cargo carried on deck. This does not apply if the bill provides that the rules are to apply to the deck cargo or carriage of livestock. As the case may be, in the case of the deck cargo, the bill of lading must state that it is to be carried on deck if the rules are not to apply. It appears the rules apply from the moment of the loading forward. Transshipment clause permit the carrier to terminate its responsibility once the goods have left its possession. Similarly, clauses which define the journey which the ship is to make are not repugnant to the rules, such as to constitute a deviation. The contract may deem a person to be the contract party. This may allow variation of the obligations of such parties. Free and free out of clauses allocate responsibility for loading and stowing. They may, to this extent, take obligations of the relevant party outside the scope of the rules in respect of that part of the voyage. The responsibility may be allocated to another. Now we continue with the time bar. The Art 3 of the rules states that any claim in respect of the goods carried will be time barred unless proceedings has been commenced within 1 year of their delivery, or the day when they should have been delivered. This is one of the first points to check when notified of a claim, as it will provide the carrier with an absolute defense to the claim. This period may be extended by agreement. The time limit may be invoked by a carrier who has a relationship with the claimed under a bill of lading. The Hague visby rules allow indefinite actions against third parties to be taken outside the 1 year period if brought within the time allowed by the court. Action must be brought within 3 months of the settlement or when the claimant has been served with proceedings. The contract under which their indemnity is provided must be governed by the Hague visby rules. The underlying contract of the claim need not necessarily be so governed. The time bar is most procedural in this context. Bars the claim entirely. It's applied also to arbitration. And the last one, applicability of the charter parties. If incorporate, the common law obligation to provide a seaworthy ship is replaced by duty to exercise due diligence to make the ship seaworthy before and at the beginning of the voyage. A ship owner will also be able to rely on the wide range of defense listed in Art 4 in respect of any of duties that they are expected to perform under the chapter party. A ship owner will be able to rely on the 1 year time bar in respect of claims linked to the good carried. If the claim is not linked to the good, for example, a claim for lost freight, it is unlikely that the time bar will be applicable. And that's it. Thanks for your attention.
Safety has become an important and crucial aspect as it involves the operational and structural integrity of the goods and the personal integrity of the crew. For this reason, the operational conditions of the vessels have been regulated according to the conditions of the voyage to be made, providing safety and confidence to all involved. This makes it possible for operations to be carried out in the correct way. And that is why it is specified by the Hague rules the obligations to provide a seaworthy ship in the Art 3.1, which this states that carrier must exercise due diligence before and at the beginning of the voyage to make the ship seaworthy, to properly man and supply the ship, and to ensure the holds are fit to receive the goods. The obligations to carry out due diligence to make the ship seaworthy arises only during, and before the commencement of the voyage. It is not a continuing obligation, and the carrier will not be responsible for the defect which develop during the voyage. Due diligence has been interpreted by the court as equivalent to the common law, and the duty of care and the duty cannot be delegated. These obligations of seaworthiness also extend to the fitness of the vessel to receive and carry and care of the intended cargo. The carrier obligations and care of cargo in the Art 3.2 state that the carrier should properly and carefully load, handle, stow, carry, keep care for and discharge the goods delivered following established safety procedures. The standard imposed is equivalent to the reasonable care, and the goods must be carried in accordance with a sound system depending on the cargo. And the limitation of liability, carriers can limit their liability for cargo damage under the rules in order to protect themselves from the risk associated with high value goods of undisclosed value. In the Art 5 of the Hague rules, limited the liability of the carrier to 100 gold value per package or unit. The Hague visby rules retain the concept of package or unit for limitations of individual items of cargo, but also introduce an alternative formula based on the weight of the cargo.